My daughter moved me into assisted living for a weekend, then she emptied my home. The first night, my daughter left me at Oak Haven Assisted Living. She kissed my forehead and said, "Just relax. Mom, it's only for the weekend." She had packed my slippers, 2 sweaters, my medication, and the paperback novel I had been reading. She told me the house needed a few repairs while I was gone. She told me a change of scenery would be good for me. And because she was my daughter, I believed her. But on Saturday morning, while I was sitting in a bright little room that did not smell like my home, I opened my phone and saw my mother's sapphire brooch listed for sale online. The same brooch that had been locked inside my bedroom dresser. The listing said, "Estate sale item. Owner relocating." That was when I understood my daughter had never planned to bring me home on Sunday. If you believe no one should be moved out of their own home without their clear consent, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments. What would you do first if a family member called it help, but secretly emptied your house? My name is Rebecca Clark. I was 68 years old when my daughter tried to turn one weekend into the end of my life as I knew it. I had lived in my house on Maple Lane for 34 years. William and I bought it when Eric was still in high school and Clara was 12. At the time, it was more house than we could comfortably afford. The kitchen had orange wallpaper. The driveway was cracked. The bedrooms were small, and the backyard was mostly mud. But William stood in the living room that first day with his hands on his hips and said, "Rebecca, we can make a life here." So we did. We painted the kitchen ourselves. We planted dogwood trees in the front yard. We saved for years to replace the roof. We hosted birthday parties, graduation dinners, Christmas mornings, and the kind of Sunday lunches where someone was always late, but everyone came hungry. After William died, the house became quieter, but it did not become empty. There is a difference. I still had my garden. I still had church on Sundays. I still volunteered twice a month at the library. I still met Ruth for coffee. I still knew which floorboard creaked near the hall closet and which window stuck after heavy rain. I had friends. I had routines. I had memories. Most of all, I had choice. My daughter Clara had never understood why that mattered so much to me. She was 42. Organized, ambitious, and always in a hurry. She worked in human resources for a large hospital system in Columbus. She had a color-coded calendar, a spotless car, and a habit of finishing people's sentences when she thought they were taking too long. When she was young, I admired that drive in her. Later, I realized that a person can become so determined to solve every problem that they start seeing other people's choices as obstacles. Clara loved me. I believe that. Even now. But love can become tangled with control when a person decides they know what is best for you before they have truly listened. The first time she mentioned assisted living, I was in my own kitchen making soup. It was a rainy Tuesday in October. I had slipped 2 weeks earlier while carrying laundry down the basement stairs. I bruised my hip and twisted my ankle, but nothing was broken. The doctor told me to take it easy for a few days. Clara came over that evening with groceries. "You could have called me," she said, unpacking bags without asking where I wanted things. "I did call you. After you fell." "Yes. You could have hit your head." "I didn't. You could have been lying there for hours." "I wasn't." She stopped and looked at me. "Mom, this house has too many risks." I stirred the soup. "It has stairs. It has a basement. A garage. A big yard. It's too much for one person. I have lived here alone for 3 years." "And you're getting older?" I turned off the stove. It is a strange thing when your child says that to you. You know it is true. Of course it is true. We all get older. But sometimes people say it as if age is a door closing behind you. "I am getting older," I said. I am not disappearing. Clara Sahil. I didn't say you were. No. But you keep talking as if staying in my home is irresponsible. I'm worried about you. There it was. The sentence that sounds loving until it is used to silence every answer you give. At first, I tried to reassure her. I installed handrails in the basement. I bought a medical alert pendant. Even though I hated the way it looked around my neck, I hired a man from church to clear heavy snow from the driveway. I let Clara put emergency contacts by the phone. None of it was enough. Every solution became proof, in her mind, that there must be a larger problem. If you need a pendant, maybe you should not be alone. If you need someone to shovel, maybe you should not have a house. If the stairs are difficult, maybe it is time to move. It was as if she did not want my independence to become safer. She wanted it to become impossible. Then, in early November, Clara called me with a softer voice than usual. Mum, I found a place I think you should see. I'm not looking for a place. I know, but just see it. What kind of place? Oakhaven. It's an assisted living community outside town. It is beautiful. They have gardens, exercise classes, meals, transportation. You would have people around you. I already have people around me. Not all the time. I don't need people around me all the time. She went quiet. Then she said, Would you come for one weekend? Just as a trial stay. No commitment. You can see what it feels like. I almost said no, but Clara had been persistent for weeks, and I was tired of every phone call turning into an argument. She promised it would be good for me to rest after my fall. She promised she would handle the house while I was away. Just one weekend, she said. Friday to Sunday. I'll bring you home myself. I wish I could say I had known better. But sometimes, the people who hurt us are able to do so because we want so badly to believe they are acting from love. So I agreed. Friday morning, Clara arrived at my house carrying an overnight bag she had packed for me. I found that odd immediately. I could have packed my own things. I said, I know what you need. That sentence should have warned me. Instead, I let her put my blue cardigan, 2 pairs of pants, my medicine organizer, and a pair of walking shoes into the bag. She chose everything practical. Nothing personal. No photographs. No family quilt. No little silver frame of William and me at our anniversary dinner. Just enough for a temporary stay. At least, that was what I thought. Before we left, I walked through the house. I touched the back of William's armchair. I checked that the kitchen window was locked. I looked at the dining room table, still covered with a stack of library books I meant to return Monday. Clara waited by the door. Mom, it's 2 nights. You're acting like you're leaving forever. I smiled at her. You know me. I like my things where I can see them. She kissed my cheek. You'll be back before you know it. Oakhaven was clean and bright. Too bright. I thought. The lobby smelled faintly of lemon polish and fresh flowers. A woman at the front desk welcomed me by name. Clara had arranged everything in advance, including my meals, an introductory tour, and a room at the end of a quiet hallway. That also struck me as strange. It was a lot of preparation for a weekend trial stay. The room had a narrow bed, a small dresser, a recliner, and a window overlooking a courtyard. There were framed prints on the wall that looked like they had been chosen by someone who had never lived with the furniture. A kind woman named Mrs. Albright introduced herself as my neighbor. Are you moving in? She asked. No, I said. I'm here for the weekend. She smiled, but something in her face changed. That's what my son said, too. Before I could ask what she meant, Clara appeared beside me. Mom, Lunch is starting. Mrs. Albright looked away. Throughout the afternoon, Clara acted cheerful. She showed me the dining room, the garden path, the little salon near the front lobby. She pointed out residents playing cards and a calendar full of activities. You could make friends here, she said. I have friends. You could have more support here. I have support. She looked frustrated. Why do you fight every suggestion? I stopped walking. Because you keep calling it a suggestion after I say no. For a moment, her face softened. Then she reached for my hand. I'm trying to make sure you're okay. I wanted to believe her. So I squeezed her fingers and said, Then bring me home Sunday. She smiled. Of course. That evening, after dinner, Clara said she needed to return to my house. The plumber is coming early tomorrow, she explained. There is that slow leak under the guest bathroom sink. I knew about the leak. It had been there for years. And I had already called a plumber to look at it the following month. It can wait, I said. It might get worse. Then call the plumber. But why do you need to be there? To let him in? I can come home. Mom, you just got settled. She kissed my forehead. Rest. I'll be back tomorrow morning. I watched her walk down the hall. That was the first time I felt uneasy. Not frightened. Not yet. Just uneasy. She had been too prepared. Too certain. Too quick to explain why I should remain at Oak Haven. The next morning, I woke early. The room was quiet except for the low hum of the heater. I made coffee from a small machine near the window and tried to read my book. But I could not concentrate. At 9 o'clock, I called Clara. No answer. At 10, I called again. No answer. At 11, she sent a text. Plumber ran late. Everything is fine. Enjoy your lunch. I'll come after I finish up. I stared at the message. Everything is fine. That was another sentence people use when they do not want you asking questions. After lunch, I went back to my room and opened my phone. I had been looking for a recipe online when an advertisement appeared on a local marketplace page. It showed a small antique brooch on a velvet cloth. At first, I scrolled past it. Then I stopped. The brooch was oval, with a pale sapphire in the center and tiny seed pearls around the edge. It had belonged to my mother. She wore it to my wedding. I wore it to Clara's graduation, and every Christmas after William died. There was a tiny scratch near the clasp, where it had caught on a chair when I was young. I knew that brooch. The listing said, Vintage sapphire and pearl brooch. Estate sale item. Owner relocating. Cash offers only. My hands began to shake. I opened the listing. The seller was using a name I did not recognize. But the photograph had been taken on my dining room table. I could see the little burn mark near the edge. I could see the corner of William's old blue table runner behind the brooch. I zoomed in until my breath stopped. In the reflection of the silver serving dish beside it, I could see boxes stacked near the wall. Boxes from my house. I called Clara immediately. This time, she answered on the fourth ring. Hi. Mom. Where are you? At the house. What are you doing? A pause. Waiting for the plumber. Why is my mother's brooch listed online? The silence that followed told me more than any answer could have. Finally, Clara said, Mom, please don't get upset. Is it in my house? It was in the jewelry box. Is it in my house? She exhaled. I was sorting things. You listed it for sale? I listed a few items temporarily. People are interested in vintage jewelry. You have no right to sell my things. I'm not selling them. I'm seeing what they are worth. The listing says cash offers only. Mom, you don't understand how these things work. My body went cold. I understand perfectly. Take the listing down. You're overreacting. Take it down. Rebecca, you need to think about the future. No, I said. You need to stop touching my property. The next words came out of her mouth fast, almost desperate. You can't keep all of this forever. I stood beside the window of that unfamiliar room, looking out at the courtyard where people walked slowly under bare trees. My home is not all of this, I said. It is my home. Clara was quiet. Then she said, I'll be there soon. She hung up. I did not wait. I called Ruth. When she heard my voice, she asked only one question. Do you need me to come get you? Yes, I said. 25 minutes later, Ruth was standing in the Oakhaven lobby with her car keys in her hand. The receptionist looked confused. Mrs. Clark, your daughter said you were staying through Sunday. I changed my mind. I said. The receptionist glanced toward a folder on the desk. I'm sorry, but there may be paperwork. Ruth stepped beside me. Rebecca is here voluntarily. Is that correct? The receptionist looked at the file. Yes. Then she is also free to leave voluntarily, Ruth said. The woman hesitated, then nodded. I signed out. As we walked toward the door, Mrs. Albright called softly from down the hall. Take your keys with you. Dear. I turned around. She was standing beside her doorway. Her eyes were sad. I made that mistake, she said. I looked at Ruth. Then I looked at my purse. My house keys were not there. Clara had taken them when she packed my bag. For a second, I could not understand what Mrs. Blank Albright meant. Then I opened my purse again. I checked every pocket. My wallet was there. My phone was there. My medication was there. But my house keys were gone. Clara had packed my overnight bag herself. She had carried it from my bedroom to the car. And somewhere between leaving my home Friday morning and arriving at Oakhaven, my keys had disappeared. Ruth saw the look on my face. What is it? My keys. Did you leave them at home? No. I swallowed. Clara has them. Ruth's mouth tightened. Then we do not go straight home alone. I wanted to argue. It was my house. I had every right to walk through the front door whenever I wanted. But the truth was, I did not know what Clara had done inside. I did not know whether she was there, whether strangers were there, or whether the locks had already been changed. So Ruth called the Willow Creek Police Department's non-emergency line from the parking lot. She explained only the facts. I was an adult homeowner returning from a voluntary weekend stay. My daughter had possession of my keys. I had reason to believe property was being removed without my permission. The dispatcher told us an officer could meet us at my address to keep the peace. I hated every part of it. I hated sitting in Ruth's car while she drove toward Maple Lane. I hated seeing familiar streets go by. I hated knowing that somewhere ahead, my daughter might be inside the home. William and I had built, deciding what pieces of my life were worth keeping and what pieces could be sold. Most of all, I hated that I had to involve police just to enter my own home. When we turned onto my street, my stomach dropped. A white moving truck was parked in front of my house. The back door was open. 2 men were carrying boxes down my front steps. For a moment, I could not breathe. On the lawn sat William's old patio set, the cedar chest from my bedroom, 3 cardboard boxes labeled kitchen, and the little wooden bench where he used to sit and take off his work boots. Ruth pulled her car to the curb. "What do you want to do?" she asked. I looked at my home. The curtains in the living room window were gone. The front door stood open. And in the driveway, Clara's car was parked beside a black SUV. I did not recognize. "I want to go inside," I said. Before we could step out, a police cruiser turned onto the street. Officer Daniel Ruiz parked behind us and walked over. He was a young-looking man with a steady voice and the kind of expression that told me he had learned not to make assumptions too quickly. "Mrs. Clark?" "Yes. I understand this is your residence?" "It is." "Do you have identification with the address?" I handed him my driver's license, still grateful that I had not let Clara pack my purse completely. He reviewed it, then looked toward the house. "Do you know who the movers are?" "No." "Did you authorize them to remove property?" "No." He nodded. "Let's talk to the people inside before anything else leaves the house." As we walked up the driveway, Clara came out the front door. She looked startled when she saw me. Then she saw Officer Ruiz. Her face changed. "Mom," she said. "What are you doing here?" I stopped at the bottom of the steps. "I live here." "You were supposed to be at Oak Haven?" "I was supposed to return Sunday." "It's only Saturday afternoon." "And you were supposed to repair a leak?" Her eyes moved toward the moving truck, then back to me. "Mom, please don't make this harder than it has to be." I looked past her into the house. My living room looked hollow. The bookshelf beside William's chair was half empty. The framed photographs had been removed from the wall. My blue curtains were folded in a box by the fireplace. "Harder than what?" I asked. Clara crossed her arms. "I was trying to get ahead of things." "By emptying my home?" "I was organizing." "You hired movers. They are helping move items into storage." "Whose storage?" She hesitated. "Mine." "Where?" "I have a unit near my apartment." I felt Ruth step closer beside me. Officer Ruiz spoke calmly. "Ma'am, did Mrs. Clark authorize you to remove these belongings?" Clara looked at him. "I'm her daughter." "That was not my question." "She needs help." "Did she authorize you to remove these belongings?" Clara's face tightened. "No, not specifically." The officer nodded. "Then the movers need to stop until ownership and authorization are clear." One of the men near the truck shifted uneasily. "We were hired for a weekend relocation," he said. "We were told the homeowner was transitioning to assisted living." I looked at Clara. "You told them I was moving?" "I said you were considering it." The mover pulled a paper from a clipboard. "Ma'am, the order says, full residence, clear out, estate preparation, and staging access." Ruth made a small sound beside me. "Estate preparation. Not repair work. Not storage. A clear out." Clara snatched for the paperwork, but the mover stepped back. Officer Ruiz took the clipboard and read the order. "Mrs. Clark," he said. "Do you want these items returned to the home?" "Yes." His voice remained professional. "Then I recommend the movers place everything back inside until you and your daughter resolve this through the proper channels. If property has already been transported elsewhere, we will need an inventory." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Mom, I was trying to make the house easier to sell." The words hung in the cold air. I stared at her. "Sell? You can't maintain this place forever." "That is not your decision." "It should be," she snapped. "You fell. You were alone. You had to wear that emergency pendant. You can barely get down the basement stairs. I can live in my home with support. You are not listening." "No, Clara," I said. "You are not listening. I told you no." She turned toward the house and pressed both hands against her forehead. For a moment, she looked less like my daughter and more like someone trapped in a problem she could not solve. But then she looked back at me. "You have no idea how much work this house is. How much money it could give you if you would just stop being so stubborn." There it was again. The word money. the word that always seemed to arrive after concern had failed. Officer Ruiz instructed the movers to pause work. He explained that he could not decide family property ownership at the curb, but he could document that I had not authorized the removal and that I wanted my belongings to remain in my home. The movers began carrying boxes back inside. Every item that returned felt like a small piece of air coming back into the house. The cedar chest, the photo boxes, William's old records, a stack of quilts Clara had already labeled donate. I walked through each room slowly, with Ruth and Officer Ruiz nearby. The house was not empty. Not yet. But it had been changed. My bedroom dresser drawers were open. The jewelry box was gone. The guest room closet was stripped of linens. The cabinet in the dining room stood bare, except for dust outlines where my mother's china had been. I went straight to my room. The top drawer of my dresser was open. The brooch was gone. The jewelry box was gone. And on the bed lay a roll of packing tape, a black marker, and an empty cardboard box marked personal effects. I stood there until Ruth touched my shoulder. "Rebecca," she said softly, "we will find it." I took out my phone and opened the marketplace listing. It was still there. The seller had changed the description. Vintage sapphire and pearl brooch. Must sell today. Pickup available. There was a new message under the listing from someone asking if the brooch was still available. The seller's reply said yes. Then, beneath that message, I saw a location. A coffee shop parking lot near downtown Willow Creek. Pickup after 4 p.m. It was only 3:20. I called Lena. She answered quickly. "Rebecca?" "Clara hired movers," I said. She told them I was moving. She listed my mother's brooch online. Lena was quiet for a moment. "Are you safe?" "Yes. An officer is here." "Do not meet anyone yourself over the listing. Screenshot everything. Ask the officer whether he can document it. And I will contact the investigators." I handed my phone to Officer Ruiz. He photographed the listing, the messages, and the address. Then he asked Clara directly where the jewelry box was. She folded her arms. "I don't know." "That is your mother's property," he said. "If you know where it is, you need to say so." I was sorting things. I don't know what happened after that. "Did you create this online listing?" "No." "Did you give anyone permission to sell the brooch?" "No." Her answer came too quickly. I looked at her. Clara. She would not meet my eyes. That told me enough. Officer Ruiz explained that the situation was being documented and that selling or transferring property without permission could create serious consequences. He gave Clara instructions not to remove anything else from the house. Then he left us with a report number and told me to contact the department if anyone arrived to collect the brooch. I thought the worst part was over. I was wrong. While the movers carried the last boxes back inside, Ruth found a stack of papers on the dining room sideboard. At first, I thought they were packing lists. Then I saw a logo at the top, Harrington and Cole Realty. My heart began to race. Ruth handed me the first page. It was a comparative market analysis for my house. It listed recent sales on Maple Lane, an estimated asking price, suggested repairs, and a note that said, "Seller advised to declutter, remove personal effects, and prepare property for off-market listing." The next page was worse. It was an email printout from Clara to a real estate agent named Vincent Harrington. The date was 3 weeks before she had ever asked me to visit Oak Haven. "Mr. Harrington, my mother is becoming less able to manage independently, and I believe she will need to transition soon. I would like to discuss a discreet sale before the property deteriorates or she becomes emotionally resistant. Please advise on the best way to begin." My hands started shaking. 3 weeks before the trial weekend. 3 weeks before the carefully packed bag. 3 weeks before, she told me Oak Haven was only a place to rest. Clara had not been helping me make a decision. She had been preparing to make it without me. I turned the page. There was a reply from Vincent Harrington. I would be happy to assist. If your mother is expected to enter assisted living, early preparation is wise. I can arrange a consultation and recommend a clean-out service. We should discuss whether you hold power of attorney or anticipate obtaining it. Below that was Clara's answer. I am working on the authority issue. She is resistant, but I believe she will come around. Once she sees she cannot manage the house alone. I looked up. Clara was standing in the doorway. She had seen the papers in my hands. For the first time that day, she did not try to explain. She just stood there. Silent. And I understood that the weekend at Oak Haven had never been a test for me. It had been a test of how far she could go before I came home. I held the email in both hands and read it again. I am working on the authority issue. She is resistant, but I believe she will come around once she sees she cannot manage the house alone. For years, I had worried that Clara thought I was stubborn, but standing in my dining room, surrounded by boxes she had packed without permission, I finally understood the truth. She did not think I was stubborn. She thought my refusal was a problem to solve. Mom? Clara said quietly. I looked up at her. When were you planning to tell me? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I was trying to protect you. No, I said. You were trying to prepare my house for sale before I had even agreed to leave it. You fell. I bruised my hip. You could fall again. So you decided I should lose my home? You don't understand how quickly things can change. I understand exactly how quickly things can change. I went away for one weekend, and my daughter hired movers. Tears slid down Clara's face. I was scared. I believed she was. But fear is not the same as love, and fear does not make every action acceptable. I was scared too. I told her. I was scared when I opened a listing for my mother's brooch. I was scared when I found strangers carrying my belongings out of my house. I was scared when I read that you had been planning this before you ever asked me about Oak Haven. Clara looked toward the floor. I thought if the house was cleared out, you would see how much easier it would be to move. You wanted me to come home to an empty house. I wanted you to understand. You wanted me to surrender. The words landed between us. Ruth stood quietly at my side. She did not speak for me. She did not need to. Her presence reminded me that I was not alone, even when the people who should have protected me were the ones causing harm. I folded the emails and placed them inside my purse. Then I picked up my phone and called the number listed on the marketplace ad. The seller answered on the second ring. Hello? Hey, I said. I'm calling about the sapphire and pearl brooch. A woman's voice replied. Yes. It's still available. Are you interested? Yes. I would like to see it. Great. I can meet you at the coffee shop on West Elm at 4. May I ask where you got it? There was a pause. An estate clear out. From whose estate? Another pause. Then the woman said, Look, I just sell things for people. Did a woman named Clara Clark give it to you? The woman went silent. I heard traffic in the background. Finally, she said, I don't know the customer's last name. Did she tell you the owner was relocating to assisted living? The woman exhaled. Yes. I closed my eyes. Ma'am, that brooch belongs to me. I am not relocating. I did not authorize its sale. Her voice changed immediately. Oh. I have a police report number and photographs proving it was taken from my home. I would like it returned. I did not know, she said quickly. I promise you, I didn't know. I believe you. Please do not sell it. I won't. I'll meet you there. Officer Ruiz was still finishing his report outside when I told him about the call. He said he could not guarantee an immediate recovery without confirming the details. But he agreed to meet Ruth and me at the coffee shop so the exchange could be documented safely. Clara wanted to come. No, I said. Mom, I can explain. Not to the seller. Not today. She looked wounded. For the first time, I did not try to fix that feeling for her. At 4 o'clock, the parking lot outside the coffee shop was crowded with people coming for late afternoon drinks and early dinners. Officer Ruiz stood near his cruiser. Ruth waited beside me. A woman in her 30s approached carrying a small shopping bag. Mrs. Clark? She asked. Yes. My name is Paige. I'm so sorry. She handed me the bag. Inside was my mother's jewelry box. I could tell it was mine because of the tiny gold sticker on the bottom that had been there since I was a girl. My fingers trembled as I opened it. The sapphire brooch lay inside on a piece of tissue paper. Beside it were 2 pairs of pearl earrings. William's old cuff links. And my mother's wedding ring. Things Clara had not even mentioned. Things she had taken from my bedroom dresser while I was supposed to be resting at Oakhaven. I picked up the brooch. The small scratch near the clasp was still there. For a moment, I could not speak. Paige looked miserable. She told me the family was downsizing. She said her mother had moved to a care facility and did not need personal items anymore. I posted them for her because she said she wasn't good with technology. Did she give you anything else? Paige nodded. A few boxes. China. Picture frames. Some old records. She said there would be more after the house was cleaned out. Officer Ruiz wrote it down. Do you still have the other items? He asked. Yes. They're in my car. Within 10 minutes, Paige had returned every item she had received from Clara. Nothing had been sold yet. I was lucky. Not because Clara had changed her mind. Because the buyer had enough decency to stop when she learned the truth. Officer Ruiz documented the recovery and told Paige she might be contacted later. Then he turned to me. Mrs. Clark, we have evidence that property was removed and listed for sale without your authorization. You may wish to speak with your attorney before deciding how you want to proceed. I nodded. I already knew who I needed to call. Lena met me at my house that evening. The movers were gone. Most of my belongings had been returned. But the rooms looked violated in a way I cannot fully explain. It was not only the missing objects. It was the open drawers, the bare shelves, the labels on boxes, the sight of my life reduced to categories that someone else had decided could be removed. Keep. Donate. Sell. Store. Lena sat at my kitchen table while I showed her the broker emails, the marketplace listing, the moving company order, and the police report. She read every document without rushing. Then she looked at me. Rebecca. Clara's actions may create both civil and criminal issues. The police will decide what they investigate. But you also have legal options to protect your home and property. I don't want to destroy my daughter. I understand. But I cannot let her do this again. Then we focus on protection and accountability. That was exactly what I wanted. Not revenge. Not humiliation. Protection. Lena helped me take immediate steps. We changed every lock in the house, including the garage and side entrance. We contacted my bank and investment providers to confirm that Clara had no authority over any account. We placed a title monitoring alert on my property. We updated my estate plan and removed Clara from any decision-making role. I did not remove her from my will that night. I needed time before making that decision. But I made one thing clear in writing. Clara would not have control over my home, my money, my health care, or my future, simply because she was my daughter. I also gave Lena permission to contact Vincent Harrington, the real estate agent. His response came the next morning. He wanted to meet. I almost refused. But Lena said it could be useful to hear what Clara had told him. So we met in Lena's office 2 days later. Vincent Harrington was older than I expected. Maybe in his late 50s. He wore a gray suit and carried a leather portfolio. He looked uncomfortable from the moment he entered. "Mrs. Clark," he said, "I want to apologize. You were going to list my house? I was asked to evaluate it. You were asked to help clear it out?" He looked down. "Your daughter described you as a woman who was likely transitioning to assisted living. She said she was working with you and expected to obtain authority to handle the sale. She did not have my permission. I understand that now. Did you ever speak to me?" "No." "Did you ever ask to?" "No." Lena leaned forward. "Mr. Harrington, did you advise Ms. Clark to remove the owner's personal possessions before she had legal authority to sell the home?" He shifted in his chair. "I provided general staging advice based on the information I was given." "Did you recommend a clear-out company?" "I gave her a contact." "Did you explain that she could not list or sell the property without Mrs. Clark's consent or valid legal authority?" He hesitated. Then he said, "I should have insisted on speaking with Mrs. A. Clark directly." "Yes," Lena replied. "You should have." Vincent agreed to provide copies of all emails, notes, and communications he had received from Clara. He also agreed not to list, market, show, or discuss my property with anyone else. It was not justice yet, but it was evidence. And evidence was how I had learned to protect myself. The more I read, the clearer the timeline became. Clara had contacted Oak Haven nearly a month before our trial weekend. She had asked about a furnished room, an evaluation process, and monthly rates. She had asked whether residents could be admitted quickly if a family member believed independent living was no longer safe. She had contacted the moving company 2 weeks before she ever invited me to stay there. And she had spoken with Vincent Harrington 3 weeks before that. The weekend at Oak Haven had not been a loving experiment. It had been the final step in a plan. I sat alone with those papers after Lena left. I thought about Clara as a little girl, standing on a chair to help me frost cupcakes. I thought about her teenage years, when she used to call me after every difficult day at school. I thought about the time she held my hand at William's funeral and promised, "I'll take care of you, Mom." Maybe she had believed that. Maybe somewhere along the way, taking care of me had become taking over. But intention does not erase impact, and concern does not turn control into love. Clara called me 3 times before I answered. When I finally did, her voice was raw. "Mom, please talk to me." "I am talking." "I know I went too far." "You did." "I was afraid you would fall again. I was afraid something would happen and I would regret not acting." "You could have asked me to add more help at home?" "You always say no." "Then you could have respected my answer?" "I didn't know what else to do." "You could have loved me without taking my keys." She began to cry. "I thought Oak Haven would be good for you." "Then why did you hire movers before I had agreed to move there?" She did not answer. "Why did you list my brooch?" "I thought you would not notice." The honesty of it stunned me. "You thought I would not notice my mother's brooch missing? I thought you would think it was packed somewhere." "You wanted me to doubt myself." "No," she said quickly. "I didn't. You wanted me to come home and find less of my life. You wanted me to feel that the decision had already been made." She cried harder. "I'm sorry." I sat at the kitchen table, looking at the brooch resting beside my hand. "I believe you are sorry that I came home." That sentence hurt us both. But it was true. Over the next month, Clara was required to return every item from the storage unit. Lena prepared an inventory. I checked each box myself. The police investigation continued, and Clara eventually agreed through her attorney to reimburse the moving costs, return every item, and stop all efforts to market or dispose of my property. I did not ask the police to forget what happened. I gave a full statement. I gave them the emails. I gave them the listing. I gave them the evidence. Because if I had stayed quiet to protect Clara from embarrassment, I would have taught her that she could do it again. The consequences were not dramatic. There was no movie-style moment where someone was marched away in handcuffs. There were documents, meetings, repayment agreements, and a formal warning that made it clear Clara could not remove or sell my property without permission. There was also distance. Real distance. For months, Clara could not visit my home unless I invited her. She did not have a key. She did not know the safe code. She did not receive information from my attorney or my bank. Those boundaries were not punishment. They were the cost of rebuilding trust. In spring, I planted new flowers along the front porch. Ruth helped me choose them. We picked yellow tulips, white daisies, and one small dogwood tree to replace the one that had died the year William became ill. While we worked, she asked, "Do you think you will ever forgive Clara?" I pressed a tulip bulb into the soil. "I don't know," I said. "That is fair. I love her. That has never been the question." "No," Ruth said. "The question is whether she can learn to love you without controlling you." That was exactly right. Months later, Clara sent me a letter. Not an email. Not a message sent in the middle of the night. A letter? She wrote that she had begun counseling. She wrote that she had started to understand why fear made her rush to control things. She admitted she had treated my independence like an inconvenience instead of a right. At the end, she wrote, "I thought I was preparing for the day you needed help, but I was really preparing to avoid my own fear. I am sorry I made you pay for it." I read the letter twice. Then I put it away. I did not rush to answer. Healing, I learned, is not a promise you make because someone finally says the right words. It is something built slowly, through changed behavior. My house is still mine. The dogwood tree is growing. My mother's sapphire brooch is back in its box, locked safely, where only I can reach it. And every morning, when I walk through my front door, with my own keys in my hand, I remember something important. Independence is not refusing help. It is having the right to choose what help looks like. If Rebecca's story moved you, please like this video, subscribe for more powerful family justice stories, and share your thoughts below. Should Clara be given another chance after she tried to empty her mother's home? Or are some boundaries too important to reopen? Your comment may help someone else protect their home, dignity, and right to decide.